Hello everyone, welcome to the series of tensor analysis. In this series till now we have covered the following topics: Introduction to tensors, coordinate transformation of tensors, Einstein summation convention. In this video we will discuss some questions on Einstein summation convention. So let's first recall the statement of Einstein summation convention. So it states that whenever an index repeats twice in a single term, for example, here I have written a subscript I, x subscript I. So in this particular expression, as you can see, the index I is repeated. It is repeating twice. Okay. So that means it is implied a summation over all possible value of index. That means this will not represent a single term, but you will take a summation over all the possible values of I. Suppose I takes values from 1 to n, then it will represent sum of n terms, and when you expand it you will get a subscript 1 x subscript 1 plus a2 x2 plus a3 x3 and so on up to n terms. So basically Einstein summation convention simplifies this summation, and by using this you can write this summation into a single term. In the last video we discussed that a system of equation can be written in this form. Okay, so here we have three equations, and this is very big expression, and by using Einstein summation convention we can easily reduce it into very simpler expression. So if you are not familiar with Einstein summation convention rules and its theory, so please refer to my lecture number 3 where this topic is explained in detail, so that you can get this lecture well. So in the last video we have discussed up to question number 5. So let's start with question number 6. If n equals to 2, write out explicitly the triple summation. So here you have to expand this expression. This expression is written in this expression RST are the index, as you can see. So C RST. So RST are written in the subscript, and here x superscript r, y superscript s, z superscript t. In tensor analysis we use variables component in the form of subscript, or in sometimes we write in the form of superscript. So when you write components in superscript, so don't get confused between exponent and superscript. Okay, if you want to use exponent, then you will write x to the power r, so you will use bracket. Otherwise if you have to write x to the power r, so simply you can write x times x r times. Okay, so otherwise you have to take it as superscript. So here x r, y s, z t, so these are basically component of variables. So r, s, t, all three indices are repeated twice. R is repeating twice, s is repeating twice, and t is also repeating twice. That means the index which repeated twice is called dummy index. So all three are dummy indices. Okay, and meaning of dummy index, that means you have to take summation over all the possible values of RST. So here n equals to 2. The meaning of n will give you the upper limit of the index. The index will start from 1 and it will go up to n. So here n is 2, so r will run from 1 to 2. In the same way s will run from 1 to 2 and t will run from 1 to 2. So let's expand this expression. Here we have C R S T, X R, Y S, Z T. So when you expand it, you will get three sums, right? Three summation. So that's why they have written triple summation in the question. Okay, so R from 1 to 2, S from 1 to 2, and T from 1 to 2. So C R S T, X R, Y S, Z T. So first let's vary summation over r. So when you put r as 1 and the second r as 2, so you will get two terms. So let's write summation over t and over s. First let's substitute r as 1, then x1 ys zt plus c2 st x2 ys zt. Next let's substitute s as 1 and 2. Let's take sum over the possible values of s. So when you substitute s as 1, you will get two terms. When you substitute s as 2, so you will get another two terms. So in total we will have four terms. So t from 1 to 2, let's substitute s as 1. So c1 1t, x1 y1 zt, then c2 1t, x2 y1 zt. Let's substitute s as 2, c1 2t, x1 y2 zt, c2 2t, x2 y2 zt. So we get 4 terms. Now let's substitute t as 1 and t as 2. So when you substitute t as 1, you will get 4 terms, and when you substitute t as 2, you will get another 4 terms. So in this way, you will get 8 terms in total. So first 4 terms will be c1 1 1, x1 y1 z1 plus c2 1 1, x2 y1 z1, c1 2 1, x1 y2 z1 plus c2 2 1, x2 y2 z1. Now substitute t as 2 in this expression. So the first term will be c1 1 2, x1 y1 z2 plus c2 1 2, x2 y1 z2, c1 2 2, x1 y2 z2, c2 2 2, x2 y2 z2. So in total you will have 8 terms. So here we have 3 index. So if you have one summation, then you will get n terms. If you have double sum, then you will have n square terms. Here we have 3 summations, so we will get in total n cube terms. The value of n is 2, so you will get 2 cube, that is 8 terms. This is general formula. Okay, so let's move to next question. Here we have to prove that the value of this expression is 0 if the coefficient is given, aij is given as I minus j. Here we have a subscript ij, x subscript I, x subscript j. So 2 indices are used, and both the index are repeated twice. That means both are dummy index I and j. Both are dummy. That means you will take summation over the values of I and j. So we will have aij, xi, xj, I from 1 to n and j from 1 to n. Now let's and we have the value of coefficient is I minus j. So let's divide it into some cases. Okay, so let's the first case when both the subscripts of the coefficient, first and second subscript, when both the subscripts are same, that means when I is equal to j, in that case the value of coefficient will be I minus j, that means 0. So in that case the value of coefficient will be 0. The next case, when the first coefficient is I and the second coefficient is j, so the coefficient becomes I minus j, aij becomes I minus j, and it will okay. Next let's consider the first index j and the second index I. In that case the coefficient becomes j minus I. Okay, so the whole term, actually we have this term aij, xi, xj. The coefficient is come along with variable xi, xj. So when both the index are same, in that case 0 times xi times xj. So in total you will have 0. The value of that term will be 0. When you have first index is I and second index is j, in that case you will have I minus j xi times xj. When the first index is j and the second is I, so you will have j minus I xj times xi. Now in first case the term vanished. In the second case you have I minus j xi times xj, and in third case j minus I xj times xi. So the variable is same in both the case, and the coefficient is also same, but the sign is, so the whole value is exactly same with opposite sign. Okay, so they will get cancelled out, it will get cancelled out. So in total at the end all the terms will get cancelled out, because these are 3 possible cases, and in all 3 cases, in the first case the value itself is 0. In the second and third case you are getting values which are same in magnitude but opposite in sign, so they will get cancelled out with each other. Okay, so that means the value of this expression will be 0. So in this way you can solve the question by considering all these three cases. Otherwise you can expand in the form of double sum, and then you can cancel all the values. So when you put I as 2 and j as 5, and when you take I as 5 and j as 2, suppose, so these terms will get cancelled out. In this way all the terms will get cancelled out, and at the diagonal, that means when you have I and j same, at that time the term itself is 0. So the value of this expression will be 0 when the coefficient is I minus j. So let's come to the next question. If the a, I, j are constants, so these are constant terms, calculate the partial derivative, okay, of this expression. So partial derivative comes into picture when you have function with more than one variable. If you have function with one variable, then you will use ordinary derivative. If you have function with more than one variable, suppose you have two variable x, y, if you have some function with three variable or more than two, okay, 3, 4, 5, so in that case we cannot use ordinary derivative, we will use partial derivative. So here you have to take partial derivative. So why partial derivative? Because as you can see in the expression, this is constant term, and here we have one variable and the other variable. So we have two variable, that's why they are asking for the partial derivative, okay, and you have to take partial derivative with respect to this variable xk. So let us suppose we have variable x1, x2 and xn. So at some stage you will get xk. So you have to take partial derivative with respect to this variable. And when you do partial derivative, what we consider, all these variables are independent to each other. That means there is no relation between the variables. All the variables are independent to each other. Okay. So here let us look at this expression, this function aij, xi, xj. As you can see, two indices are used in this expression. Both are repeated twice. I is occurring twice and j is also occurring twice. That means I and j both are dummy index. So this is not a single term, but this represents a double sum. Okay. So what is this? This is aij, xi, xj. When you expand it, I will run from 1 to n and j will run from 1 to n. Okay, so I and j can take any value. So at some time they will take k. Okay, so that means this is function of xk also. That's why we have to find the derivative with respect to xk. If this function does not depend on this variable xk, then the partial derivative value becomes 0. Okay, so means when you expand it, at some time you will get variable xk, the function in terms of xk. That's why the value, you will get some non-zero value. Okay, so let's do partial derivative. Since it is, we have two function, product of two functions, so we will use product rule. Okay, so let's do that. So here we have del by del xk, aij, xi, xj. So by using product rule, and this a subscript ij is constant, so let's take it out. So first we will differentiate first variable and keep second as constant. So del xi by del xk and xj as it is, plus keep first one as it is and derivative of second variable. So here we have aij. So del xi by del xk. So derivative of xi with respect to xk. So if this I, when this I match with k, then the value will be 1. That means the derivative of xk with respect to xk will be 1. If this I does not match with k, that means if you are if you have some other value, okay, for example del x2, and you have to differentiate it with respect to xk, and k and 2 are not same. In that case, because all the variables are independent to each other, so you will get value 0. So when the value will be non-zero, the k in that case when I and k are same. When I and k are same, in that case you will get 1, otherwise 0. So we will use Dirac delta function. The value of Dirac delta function is 1 when both the indices are same. When the superscript and subscript will be same, in that case the value will be 1, otherwise the value will be 0. Okay, so let's write xj as it is. Here we have xi and del xj by del xk. So here you have to differentiate xj with respect to xk. Same fact you will use here also. So derivative of xk with respect to xk will be 1. If j is not equal to k, in that case the value will be 0. So here we will have Dirac delta function j and k. Okay, so let me write the definition of Dirac delta function. If you have del ij, so the value will be 1 if I equals to j, and the value will be 0 if I is not equal to j. Okay, so here you will have aij. This is, let's multiply with aij the whole term. So you will have aij del ik xj plus aij xi del j k. Now so if you multiply aij with del ik, okay, so this value will be 1 when I is equal to k. So let's substitute I as k, because otherwise it will vanish out. So when I as k, you will get value 1. So let's substitute I as k. So akj, this value will be 1 xj. In the next term, what you will get when j equal to k? So let's substitute j as k. In that case, this value will be 1. If j is not equal to k, in that case you will get 0 value. So you will get one value from here, one value from here. Okay, not more than that. Otherwise I is repeated twice, so there will be a summation. Okay, j is also repeating twice, that means this is double sum. This will represent double sum. Here also this is example of double sum. But because of Dirac delta function, all other terms will get vanish out and you will get one term from each. Okay, so here ai, let's substitute j as k, xi, and this is 1. Okay, so here what you are getting, akj xj. K is free index because it is occurring once, and j is dummy index. aik xi, I is dummy index. So in both the terms we have one dummy index, here j and here I. Okay, so let's use one symbol for the dummy index, because we can replace dummy index with other index. Okay, why I am doing this? Because after that we can simplify this term, we can take common. Okay, so here what we are using, j as dummy index, and here we are using I as dummy index. So let's write let's use I as dummy index. Okay, so what I am doing, I am replacing j with I, and it is okay to replace dummy index with some other index. Okay, it will not change value. Why? So because there will be a summation over all the possible value of j. So I can use j, I can use in the place of j as I, aik xi. Now we have xi as common term, so let's take it out, aki plus aik xi. So this is your final answer. So the partial derivative of this expression is this. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you find it helpful, then please like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching.